Hello and welcome to the HempVille CBD podcast. My name is Ben Cooey, owner and operator of the store HempVille CBD in South Haven, Mississippi, and the website hempvillecbd.com. Across from me is Derek Michaud, the producer. He's the man that makes everything work. How are you, Derek?
What's up, Ben? How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. If you live in the North Mississippi area or Memphis, West Tennessee, if you are not using SRP Studios podcasting facilities or the service they provide, you are missing out, because I can tell you, if you got a message that you need to get out or you need to promote your company, this is the best way to do it. I spent 3 years looking for something like this because radio and newspaper ads and things like that, I mean, they do the job, but they don't do it as efficiently. You're just blindly out there hoping you hit the right customer, where with SRP Studios and the podcast, I'm hitting the customers that want to hear this message or looking for this product or service, and it has done wonders for my business. I suggest you give them a call. They're located in Hernando, Mississippi, so look them up. SRP Studios. The man you need to talk to is Derek Michaud.
Thanks, Ben. Man, again, this is 2 weeks in a row, but the problem is, I told you I could only afford that ad last week.
Well, free is affordable, so you're good.
Man. Okay,
you're
cool.
good.
2 for 1.
I'm just doing it because what I've accomplished so far with your service, for other business owners, I mean, I'm like, dude, I would not recommend this service if it was hurting my business, or I wouldn't continue to keep paying for it so I could do it. So it's worth every penny, and if you're a business owner, I suggest you do it because it's going to help your business.
Thank you, Ben. I appreciate all that. That's a hell of a testimonial.
Well, thank you.
Now let's put it in print.
But today, we're going to talk about something hugely important. It will affect every listener, even if you do not live in Mississippi. The hemp industry is under attack, and they're about to wipe it off the board and wipe it out completely. So listeners, please listen and please take action on the things that I'm about to say. What I'm referring to is in Mississippi. Mississippi has come out with a new bill. It has passed the House, and now it passed the House with more than 2 to 1. Mm-hmm. It passed the House 2 to 1, and now it's going to the Senate. Now, if you're a listener in Wisconsin or somewhere outside of Mississippi, you're thinking, well, this is Mississippi. It's not going to affect me. Yes, it is going to affect you, because if your state has a medical marijuana program or just recreational marijuana program, it's coming to your state. My wholesalers are saying they're seeing bills like this pop up everywhere. And if you do not have a medical marijuana or any type of marijuana program in your state, it's not there yet, because it's not needed, but it's coming. Mm-hmm. Even if you don't have a marijuana program, it's coming. So be ready to contact your senators. Mm. The bill is House Bill MS for Mississippi, HB for House Bill, MS HB 1676, otherwise known as the Mississippi Intoxicating Hemp Regulation Act and the Mississippi Medical Cannabis Act. Now, what this act does and what the purpose of the act is something that any retailer in my business who's responsible, we're all for. You've heard me on this show say we need some regulation. Yes. We need to get some of the bad players out. And you've heard me say, who are the bad players? They're the vape shops and the gas stations, mainly because they don't use these products. They don't vet companies. They don't do the research. So it's easy to get a bad product on their shelf and sell it to the public because they don't know.
They're just selling units.
Just like I told you about the lady with Kratom that came into my shop and put it on and walked out, and then we took it down. But also, they're also more than likely the ones that are selling to people underage as well. But what this bill does, and the purpose of the bill, is it's to put some regulation on an unregulated market. Sounds reasonable for that. We've been talking about that. It's to protect children from buying these products, because these products are for 21 and up. And CBD children can take, but anything that's psychoactive, it's going to affect their brain development. That's why they do not need it unless the situation is so severe a doctor prescribes it. Other than that, a child does not need this. And when I talk a child, I mean, people think of 5, 6 years old, of course. But when you're 15, 16, 17, because people are like, oh, I smoked weed when I was in high school, didn't affect me. Maybe it did, maybe it didn't. Who knows? But legally and medically, your brain doesn't really stop developing until you're like 25 or somewhere there. But at 21, it's at least safe for you to take it. It's not going to affect your brain nearly as much as when you're still growing it in your teenage years. It's to protect the public from these bad products that are out there harming people. And where have these bad products been purchased? Gas stations and tobacco shops.
If they're so bad, then why are they making it legal in a different channel? You know what I'm saying? Like now they're lumping it with medicinal.
Correct. There are bad products out there, but
but they're lumping you in with the vape shop,
and that's the next thing. They want to lump what they're trying to do with this bill is put us under the medical marijuana umbrella, and we're going to get into why that would be a problem. And that also is a key thing for something more nefarious is going on with this bill. If this bill is just about to protect the public from bad products and protect people under 21 from buying it, hey, every hemp retailer is on board with you. If those are your goals.
I mean, you have to card, right? You're not selling it to anyone under 21.
No, we're not.
Of course.
But if that's the goal, all hemp retailers are on board with you. Work with us for it. The answer to that problem is not to wipe our industry out and give it to medical marijuana, because you're wiping a whole industry out that people are their livelihood is built on.
And people rely on this.
People rely on it, but also none of us who are special hemp retailers like I am, none of us want this. We don't want these bad things to happen, because we realize as an unregulated industry, if you're selling to under 21, if you got bad product in your store, that is the quickest way to kill this industry. So, we're all trying to be responsible, but there are a few bad apples out there based on their business, whether it be a vape shop, gas station, whatever. They're not being responsible owners, and that's where we're running into the problem. So we've talked about what the bill does, what its goals are to protect the public. We're all for. But what does the bill do is a big question. How is this bill going to work? And the first thing is, at least in my state, right now, hemp products are under the Department of Agriculture. They are going to move that to the Department of Health. Now, that's big. I don't care that, I don't care that the Department of Health is going to be over this. That is fine. But the reason it's big they're moving it there is, in my state, the Department of Health controls medical marijuana. So if you put this under the umbrella of the Department of Health, that you have to do that so you can move it into the umbrella of medical marijuana.
Yeah, that's the first step.
My suggestion is, why would you get rid of one industry for another? Right?
Yeah.
Your job as a senator or a representative of a state, your job is to really do two things. Protect the public. We're all for that. And recruit industry to your state for jobs and revenue. Those are your two main issues. So now you have the hemp industry and the cannabis industry, or the marijuana industry. You're trying to combine them. Why would you want to combine them when you can keep them separate? Because they are two separate industries. You don't see the beer and liquor industry combined. You can't walk into a liquor store and buy beer.
You can't go into that crappy gas station and buy whiskey.
Correct. In some states,
and I wonder why. Right?
In some states you can, but here in Mississippi you can't.
Where I'm from in Maine, it's in the grocery store.
Yeah, right.
Seriously.
But here in Mississippi you can't do that. They keep them separate. So my question is, hey, if you can keep those separate and have two different industries, why can't you keep hemp and marijuana separate? Now, what they're going to say is, hey, we're keeping hemp separate. Your CBD and your CBG, we're keeping all the non-psychoactive cannabinoids on your side of the fence. This is called the hemp intoxicating Act, Intoxicating Cannabinoid Act. Well, you're giving them all the stuff, 90% of what we sell, you're giving it to medical marijuana. So in turn, you're not officially wiping us off the board, but financially you're wiping us off the board.
Yeah.
Now, here's some other things that the bill does that we need to look into. I've talked about how they move it to the Department of Agriculture, but the bill says no sales to anyone under 21 years of age.
Down with that.
Support it. We support it 100%.
Yep.
Protect children from buying these products.
Of course.
We're all for it.
Let's do it.
COAs, or certificates of analysis, need to come from a DEA certified lab. All for it. And here's why. I've been in this business long enough to know a lot of the bad players out there and the bad products, they're coming up with now fake certificates of analysis, right? Or they're sending it to a lab to be tested. So it is being tested, but that lab is not DEA certified. Now, I don't know exactly what that means, but I got a feeling what that means is they're searching for all the things that are bad out there, like the DEA is testing for, to make sure this product is what it is. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Also to make sure that if somebody walks into your store with law enforcement and tests a product and says, "Oh, this isn't what it says it's an illegal substance.
Mm-hmm.
We're taking it off the shelves and we're fining you," there is no argument about the testing facility. Well, I got this tested and the tests that I got say something different. If it's from a non-certified DEA testing facility, you're going to get a lot of problems. If it's a certified DEA testing facility,
no argument.
Then there's no argument.
Yeah.
And so, hey, I support that. It might make things a little difficult for some of my suppliers, but I don't think so. As I've checked with my suppliers, they're all DEA certified.
But again, it's the kind of regulation that weeds out.
It weeds out the bad things.
The bad things. Yep.
Correct. Also, it says labels on products be approved by the Department of Health. This is to make sure what's on that label is in that product. I'm 100%.
And we've talked about that in length.
Yeah.
And in depth on this show.
I'm fine with that too.
Yeah.
That's something the wholesalers will have to deal with. The only way that would affect me is, of course, if I have a wholesaler that's not getting their label approved by the Department of Health in Mississippi, I'm not going to use them.
Yeah.
One. Two, we have our label on our flower. We get it from a farm and then we bottle it up and put our label on it. I would either get our label approved or just use the label the company, because the companies bottle up their own brand too from the same farm and mail it out. I might just keep their label on it and say the liability is now on them and not on me. If that makes any sense.
But again, in favor of the labeling.
Yeah, in fact, those are things we're in favor of. The things I'm not in favor of, and the things where it starts saying, hey, there's something more going on here than protecting the public. And that is, one, everything gets moved over to medical marijuana. Only they can sell these hemp intoxicating products. Why are you creating a monopoly? Why are you eliminating one industry for another? Because what you're going to do with that is you are going to create a monster so big, you are not going to be able to control it. You can think you can control it, but there's going to be so much money in it. And we all know money is the root to all evil as far as politics go.
If there's no competition, guess what happens?
Well, yeah, but I mean, we all know how lobbyists bend the hand of politicians every once in a while. Well, if you create this monster with all the money and all their lobbyists have that money, then they're going to do whatever they want to.
I know what you wanted to say.
Yeah.
I can tell what you wanted to say.
They're going to do what they want to. And everybody listening knows exactly what I was going to say because they know it's true.
Yeah.
Now, they're going to do what they want to. So that's one big reason why you shouldn't combine the industries. Also, the hemp market is the secondary market. All right. It's like if you were to go into the grocery store, you got your name brand and you got your, I don't want to say generic, but your store brand. Both made in the same facility, but they're different. They're slightly different. What if you had to go to the grocery store and you had to buy nothing but name brand products? It costs you a whole lot more money.
Yeah.
A lot of people would necessarily not be eating some of the things they're eating because they couldn't afford it. That's kind of how, by giving it to medical marijuana, that's one of the monsters you're creating as well. Also, no artificial or synthetic cannabinoids in products. This is for the hemp industry. Now, it was kind of vague in how they wrote this law. There's still a lot of questions. But when I read that, I'm thinking, wait a second. You're telling me you're going to give all of my intoxicating products to the medical marijuana industry and they can sell them, but I can't use any synthetics, but they can? Explain to me how that works, because we talked about how synthetics is everything. Even the prescription drugs you take is synthetic. Yeah. Everything is synthetic because it's made in a lab. But when we say synthetics, we think of somebody in a lab creating something that's poisonous.
Like crystal meth.
And that does happen. But these professional retailers, professional wholesalers, they're formulated by doctors or pharmacists. They're making the best, cleanest product available. We can go all natural. It's going to take away the gummies and a lot of the products because everything's synthetic. The only thing that's natural is the bud. We can do that. But to sit there and say, hemp industry, you CBD companies, you can have no synthetic product. We're going to give all of that to medical marijuana. You can sell these products. Hemp companies, synthetics are bad. We're protecting the public. Medical marijuana, you can use the synthetics. It's all good. There's something nefarious with that. The other thing is in the packaging for the hemp industry. We can have like per serving, let's say per gummy, or per pre-roll, because a pre-roll, 1 gram pre-roll is a serving. 1 gummy would be a serving.
Right.
That product can only have 0.5 milligrams of THC in it.
That's nothing.
That's nothing.
Yeah.
Per serve. I mean, that's basically no THC. But even worse, they say the product packaging, let's say if I have 30 gummies in a jar, that jar cannot contain more than 2.5 milligrams of THC. Now combined. So think about it. If I have a jar of gummies with 30 gummies in a jar, if each of them has 0.5 milligrams, a half of a milligram,
that's 15
of THC in it, that jar is off the shelf because the total jar is 15. That's more than 2.5 grams.
Yeah.
So that jar I cannot sell.
So the jar would need 2, 4, 6.
It would
7
need like
gummies. Either like 7 gummies, right?
7 gummies, or it would have to go down in dosage.
Which again, I mean, 0.5 is already non-existent. So what are you gonna do? 0.25?
I have no idea.
Right,
that's probably so small. A lot of the producers would cost them more money to try to produce something like that to make sure they're getting everything out.
And no one's going to buy that.
No one's going to buy that. And then lastly, and this isn't that big of a deal, I don't like it. They're adding if you buy a hemp product, they're adding an extra 3% tax to it. Okay. I mean, I don't like it. It sounds like you're picking on us a little bit, but I get it. It's about tax revenue, and that's a way to tax it a little more.
And this is when it's moved into medicinal?
If the bill passes.
Yeah. Okay. So would you would that be something that you would be okay with if that was a deal breaker where they allow now stores like you?
Then I'll say, give us the 3%. Right. We'll take the 3%. Yeah. Just do not ruin and eliminate our industry. I mean, like I said, I know with rules and regulations you're going to get good and bad stuff. So we'll take some of the bad as long as we can get some of the good. But when you wipe us out, there's nothing good. There's nothing. There's no compromise there.
So, the 0.5 milligram thing, that again, the bill passes now. Dispensaries are selling this product, right?
Correct.
Why are they watering down
my stuff?
Yeah,
because it's intoxicating.
But so isn't
I know.
The real, like the actual cannabis.
I guess what they're saying is, hey, a dispensary, you got to get a medical card. You got to go through all these rules and regulations and stuff like this.
Oh, so you wouldn't need a card for the hemp products?
In a dispensary?
Right.
I don't know. I think you do because it's all under the Medical Marijuana Cannabis Act.
Uh-huh.
And in order to walk into a store, you got to have a medical marijuana card.
That's this dispensary.
Now, I've heard some stores are going to say they're going to put all the hemp intoxicating products in the front of the store and have all the medical marijuana products in the back. So I don't know if there's going to be a buffer zone there, but I would like to think, and there might be, but I would like to think, since it's under the Medical Marijuana Cannabis Act and you have to follow those rules. Well, if you're following those rules, then you would have to get a medical marijuana card, I assume, and renew it every 6 months.
I think there's a certain industry kind of pushing for this.
Well, you look at...
I mean, it just seems like the medical marijuana industry is not happy with you, and they're trying to stomp you out. They're the ones.
Alcohol and medical marijuana, we're killing them. We are killing them.
And they're using safety as the argument.
Correct. That's why I'm like, hey, responsible retailers in the hemp industry are all for protect your goals. If your goals are protecting the public and getting rid of bad product, we will support you on that 100%. And if that means us having to take some lumps with a 3% increase in tax and maybe some other things, so be it.
Better than losing your business.
But why make us why wipe out a whole industry and scoop it under the rug to another industry? Because we are not the same industries. We achieve somewhat similar goals, kind of like beer and liquor, but we're not the same industry. So why make us an industry? That does not make any sense. And when you start putting things like 0.5 milligram dose in a product, or where you say no synthetics, they can sell synthetics, but you cannot. That tells me that is not protecting the public. That is eliminating an industry. And senators, if your goal is to protect the public, why is this in there? It's in there to only benefit the medical marijuana industry.
It's pretty obvious.
And this is how I can prove that. Yeah. Let's talk about a better way to do it. What's a better way to regulate this? Well, one, the hemp industry could create as much, if not more money than medical marijuana in Mississippi for the state in sales and revenue and tax money.
Yeah.
One, we're the secondary market. I mean, everybody wants medical marijuana, but you know what? Everybody wants a BMW and a Mercedes too, but guess what? We all can't afford it.
Right.
Plus, a lot of people do not like the lack of privacy with the medical marijuana program. But a lot of people it comes down to affordability.
You could buy a Toyota and have a car for 20 years.
Correct. If everybody had to buy a $60,000, $70,000 car, there'd be a lot of people on bikes and walking. But because you have this secondary market of cars like Ford, Chevy, Toyota, and I know they're probably angry for me calling them secondary, but they're not the luxury brands, is I guess what I'm saying. Yeah. Hey, that's why the majority of people can have cars. And those are the new cars. If it wasn't for used cars, most people wouldn't have a car either. And the used car market is really the secondary market in the car industry. And it's not like we combine used car market with dealerships. I mean, some dealerships sells you used cars, but there are a lot of used car dealerships, and that's all they are is used cars.
Look what Henry Ford did.
Correct.
The Model T was the affordable
car
sedan of the day, and families could afford it, and look how many sold.
Correct.
Right.
So one, the hemp industry can benefit the state. Wiping it out is only going to hurt the state. Mm-hmm. Two,
they're leaving money on the table, aren't they?
Oh, a lot. And we're going to get into that. Protecting the kids, the children. That should be first and foremost a top priority.
And no one can argue that.
And no one would. Nobody can argue that. But there's a simple way to do it. Wiping our industry out is not a way to protect the children.
Okay.
This is how you do it. I was in the grocery store the other day. Guy in front of me was buying a case of beer. He was older than me. He looked like he was about 70. Hey, I almost said to him, look, man, I need to start hanging out with you because it looks like you're about to have a good time. But in order to make his purchase, he had to give the lady scanning all the food, his ID. And I asked her when he left, I said, why'd you have to take that man's ID? You knew he was over 21. She goes, yes, but our system, our POS system, point of sale, the cash register, anything that's 21 and over product, the cash register, the POS will not ring it up unless we scan the ID to prove he's 21. This is so if we ever get audited, it will show every sale of a product that's for 21 and up. We scan the ID and it was sold to somebody. Require us to have the same POS system. Done deal. Children protected.
And you're protected.
Correct. I'm protected
Walmart's
too.
protected.
So that is a simple solution. Just require us to all have a POS system to where the IDs have to be scanned before people buy these products. This way, you have taken out the liability of human error.
Yeah.
If somebody's saying, oh, I forgot, or oh, I was busy and wasn't paying attention. No, this way the sale cannot exist unless it's 21 or over. And if the sale did exist, then you as a retailer did something nefarious. You probably didn't ring it up. You probably just took cash and said, here you go, or something. Eventually you're going to get caught. You won't get caught the first time, but you'll get caught because that kid's going to go home, probably wind up in the hospital. Parents are going to find it. They're going to trace it back to you. And eventually you're going to get busted.
But the reputable hemp stores
are not going to do it.
No.
Because why risk my business?
Of course not.
I could sell to 1,000 kids under 21. The penalty for it would not be worth all the money I brought in.
Right. And that's not what you're here for, though.
And that's not what I'm here for. So that's an easy solution. Protect the children. Next, only products sold are those made by professionals. And you've heard me say this on this podcast, almost every podcast. If you're buying a product that is not made by a doctor, a pharmacist, or a PhD chemist, some type of professional is formulating this product, don't buy it because it'll be inconsistent and more than likely it'll be a bad product. So if you're forcing us to buy from companies that have professionals on staff to formulate this, which all the reputable companies do, it's not really hard to find, that would protect the consumer from these bad products you see in the vape shops and the gas stations. And I can tell you now, every once in a while, I will see a product that's in my store that I might see in a vape shop or gas station. But every time if it's not priced the same, then I know it's counterfeit. Because sometimes I've seen it and it's the same price, and that's how I know it's legit, and I can look at the bottle and tell. But when I see a product that I sell for $40, and I go into a vape shop and I see that same product and they're selling it for $15.99 or $19.99, I know something's up, and I do some research, and every time I've researched it, it has come up some type of counterfeit. Because with a price difference that big,
they're probably losing money if it was the real stuff.
Correct. They're buying it from a wholesaler who has old product or expired product, or they've counterfeited the label. There's something up with it, because there's just no way. One, I couldn't stay in business if, let's say, a product costs $10 and I'm selling it for $50, and my competitor, the vape shop next to me in the same strip mall, selling it for $20.
Yeah.
How am I going to stay in business?
Right.
But if I got let's say a Blue Moon or a Koi or something reputable, I know what those wholesale costs are. And if you're selling it below my wholesale cost, then I know there's a problem. I know that's not real. So that's what I got to look into, because I've called my wholesalers and said, look, how's this dude selling it for cheaper than what I'm buying it from you for?
Yep.
And I found out they are not selling that company the product. Somebody else is. That's one reason I know it's counterfeit. When they talk about no synthetic cannabinoids or artificial cannabinoids in a product, is this the same for medical marijuana? It didn't really clarify that in the bill, and I'm assuming that it's not the same for medical marijuana. I'm assuming they can take my product off the shelf, put it in the dispensary, and they can sell that exact same product. So my question with that is, that's how I know this is a lot of I think the Senate has good intentions, but I often wonder how many senators or how many representatives, if any, are invested in some type of medical marijuana program.
Mm-hmm.
And so therefore they're shaping up the laws to benefit them and to hurt their competition, which is me or the hemp industry. That's a question in itself. But when we talk about no artificial or synthetic cannabinoids, how can you say you're protecting the public if that rule applies to me but does not apply to medical marijuana? So somebody from the public can go buy it. It's okay for them to buy it in there. So really you're telling me the synthetic cannabinoids are not the problem because you're really not protecting the public from it.
It's just a good excuse.
You're saying the hemp industry is the problem. Why is the hemp industry the problem? Because we're kicking their butts. And they're putting leverage, and they have they got more money and lobbyists. The alcohol does too. They're putting more pressure on them, and that's why this is getting done. I do think most senators in this thing are they're unknowledgeable about these products in the industry. So I can see where they'd say, yes, we want to protect the public and the kids.
And if this is what it takes.
And if this is what it takes, then we'll go with it. But if you look into the educational part of it, you're like, there are better ways to do this. Why wipe out a whole industry? And that comes to the 3% tax. Don't like it, but we'll accept it. What that will do is Mississippi has a 7% sales tax. If you buy a hemp product now, it's going to be 10%. And that is really a far cry because if I move to Tennessee has no income tax, but their sales tax is like 9.5%. Plus, they throw on an extra 6% tax to any hemp product. So if you walk into a store instead of paying 9.5% sales tax, you're paying like 16.5 or 15.5% sales tax, somewhere in that ballpark. That's a big
chunk
markup that's going to the government. But like the people in Tennessee, hey, we were willing to accept that as long as we could keep doing what we're doing, because in Tennessee, they have no medical marijuana program, or they have no marijuana program. And so Tennessee actually carved out a section from what I read where Delta 8, Delta 9, and THCA is legal. But you have to, you got to have COAs from a DEA certification. You can't sell to under 21,
all the good things.
All the regulations they have are all things retailers agree with because we want to keep this industry going and we want to keep it safe.
I wonder if Tennessee did have legal or medical.
Well, we're getting to that.
Oh, okay.
It's good Tennessee has carved that out in their law. They made that change last year in 2023, and that's a positive because if medical comes, they already have on record that this is a separate industry. Okay,
done. It's already established.
It's already established, so that is a good thing. Why Mississippi can't take that same approach is beyond me, unless, like I said, there's something else going on behind the scenes, because I'm laying out a game plan for you that every responsible retailer would agree with, that yes, this is a simple way to guarantee children don't buy the product, guarantee the public is safe from these products while keeping the industry intact. So is your goal really to protect the public, or is it to wipe out an industry? Because the more I read the bill, the more it's to wipe out an industry. And that brings me to some of the points of everything that we've covered. The reason of keeping these industries separate, we've talked about how you're creating a monster in the room if you just give it all to one industry. Lack of competition, they're going to generate so much money that you are not going to be able to control it. There's room for everyone in the new cannabis market. Hemp markets are very similar, but also very different. We've talked about liquor and beer, how they get you to the same place, but they're two different categories. The hemp industry and the marijuana industry is the exact same thing. What they're basically doing is they're saying, oh, we want to protect the public and the children. These are intoxicating things. We completely agree. Bad products should not be to the public, and none of this should be sold to kids. But when that high school kid gets a 6-pack of beer on prom night, and
they don't do that.
I didn't, but I know plenty of others that did. But
you don't even want to know what I was getting into in high school.
and when they get that, let's say they get caught with it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. They get caught with it. Beer is intoxicating. Beer is more harmful to you because it's alcohol versus marijuana or hemp.
Sure.
And from what I know, beer is like nobody's drinking beer. Like when I was a teacher, high school kids, their parents would buy them Jack Daniels and hard liquor. In fact, they were kids that were so drunk on the bus to the prom that they never got off the bus. They were passed out under the bus seat sleeping. That's how drunk they were prior. Nothing happens to the parents. Nothing happens to the kid. It's all pushed under the rug.
Yeah.
So, but when this happens, you don't see the Senate get together and say, oh, we got to outlaw liquor. We got to get rid of all this beer in the state.
Didn't they already try that?
Yeah, they did try it. And counties.
How did that go?
It didn't go well. So, I mean, you don't get rid of an industry unless there's a problem you can't control.
Right.
This is an issue we can control very easily. Other things. Hemp is known as a secondary market or generic market. And we've talked about being able to go into the grocery store and buy store brands. Think of clothing.
Yeah.
Remember back in the day, everybody wanted a polo shirt or a Tommy Hilfiger or something that was name brand. But a lot of people didn't have that because it was expensive. You might have one or two of those shirts, but usually you ended up with a shirt with a fox on it or an or there was eyes-eyed with the alligator, but you would see different logos up there, right? Think of going shopping and all you had to do was you had to buy the expensive name brand stuff, that there was no other option.
Yeah.
A lot of people would be wearing the same clothes every day because they couldn't afford 4 or 5 pairs of khakis and blue jeans. They just get 2, and they're alternating them every day.
Oh, I can't. I got to say, Cheez-Its crackers, got to go name brand. Just throwing that in there.
Yeah, there's some things you got to go
Oreos,
name brand. But you have to go name brand.
Yeah.
But there's still that option.
Of course, yes. Yes.
So the other thing is you're eliminating competition and creating a monopoly with medical marijuana. Now they're going to say, no, there are plenty of dispensaries out there. They're competing against each other, so it's not a monopoly. That's correct, but you got a monopoly within a monopoly. Yes, there's competition there, but only they can sell it. That would be the equivalent of, like I said, beer and liquor are separate. But what if Coors Light, Miller Lite, I hate to say it, Bud Light, what if those companies had to be owned by liquor stores or by liquor companies like Jack Daniels or whatever? They're their own separate business. They're not swept under the rug of liquor. They're separate, even though it's alcohol, but they cannot be sold in the same place, at least in the state of Mississippi. And there's different regulations on both. It should be the same for us with hemp and cannabis.
And I would say the liquor, if they did merge, the liquor company would have every reason to, all right, we're going to lessen the beer.
Exactly.
So we can sell more liquor. And that seems like what's happening here.
Or they would just spike the beer and make it because some of your European beers can have like 10, 15% alcohol.
Yeah.
But
you know what I'm saying, though. Now they have control of their competitor.
Correct. They have eliminated their competition, so they can pretty much, I don't want to say do what they want because the legislator will step in, but when they have all the money, they can kind of do what they want because enough money will will change laws off very, very quickly. Now, another thing is, think of the money the state is losing out on because, like I said, if you keep 2 industries, you're going to get double the sales tax, double the Social Security or payroll tax. You're going to get double the licensing fees and double the income tax as well. Much less, you're also going to create a lot of jobs. And Mississippi, we're usually 50th or 45th in things when we're ranking states. You could be one of the few states, if not the only state, to separate these 2 categories, create 2 different industries, and be a leader in the forefront of this because there is a lot of money in these industries.
They reap the benefits from that.
Yeah, you'll reap the benefits of it. And, I mean, my gosh, we're one of the poorest states in the union. We need more sales tax, revenue tax, licensing fees, income tax.
Yeah.
This is a way to get it and keep the people safe. Now, there's the other thing that's confusing with this is we all know, you've heard me talk about it, in 2024, there's going to be a new federal farm bill coming out. It looks like, and nobody knows what's going to be in the farm bill, but I've talked to a lot of people, and it looks like for the majority of stuff, things are moving our direction. There's going to be a little take back. There's going to be some things we don't like in it. But I think overall, from what I hear, it's going to be a plan that's kind of comprehensive, that's going to take some things away from us, but give us some things. But it's going to allow us to keep our industry and keep thriving as hemp.
Yeah.
Explain to me if the federal government is saying this is okay, it's two separate industries. In fact, the federal government is saying to the DEA, this does not need to be a Schedule I drug. It has medical value. It has a low addiction rate or no addiction rate. It's not killed anybody the way opioids do at 100,000 per year. Section 3, by changing it to a Section 3 drug, means that it has medical value. It has a low or no addiction rate. If they're changing it to this and they're pushing all the laws in our favor and keeping them two separate industries, then why in the heck are states
fighting against it?
Fighting against what the federal government is doing and saying, okay, federal government, yes, you're making it legal. Yes, you're doing all these things and pushing this forward. But what we're going to do is carve out stuff to make sure this doesn't exist and only marijuana moves forward. How are you going to let only marijuana move forward and not the hemp industry? State of Mississippi, we can be put under the Department of Health. If you have to make us act like a dispensary and get a separate hemp license to sell these things and do the right thing, we'll accept that as long as they're two separate industries. And me as a business owner, I can decide, do I want to do that licensing or not? And the argument to that is, well, just become a dispensary. I mean, that's what you can do. To become a dispensary would cost an extra $350,000, $400,000. The licensing is $50,000. I got different security parameters that I have to do. The hemp industry doesn't have that. Mm-hmm. And by the look of this bill, the security requirements in a dispensary are going to be for the marijuana products because, like I said earlier, they're going to put all the hemp products in the front of the store and all the other stuff in the back. Sorry, I moved away from the microphone.
Oh,
they're
no, you're fine.
They're going to put all the medical marijuana stuff in the back, which tells me, hey, it might be to where you need your medical marijuana card to go into the marijuana room and buy marijuana. But if you're just a regular customer walking in off the street and you just want to go to the front part of the room, you can just walk on in.
Yeah.
Hey, if you're going to make our customers have a card, so be it. If you're going to make our customers jump through some hoops, so be it. We'll decide that. But you say, well, why don't you become a dispensary? Because I can tell you right now, probably 95% of my customers are not going to go get a medical marijuana card.
That's right.
They don't like the privacy. They don't like giving up the gun rights. But let's say that applied to hemp as well. They can't afford the prices of the marijuana stuff. Mm. And if you take the hemp industry away, I cannot tell you how many people I've gotten off hard, harmful drugs and alcohol. Those people are just going to go back to what they were used to and what they were using before they came to my store. They are going to go back to the streets. They're going to go back to the liquor stores. And that's what tells me is pushing this bill is it's the alcohol lobbyist and the medical marijuana lobbyist to wipe out our industry because we are kicking their butts at their own game. We're giving a healthier product that achieves the same results. And that's how I know something nefarious is going on. We're just moving backwards. We're just going backwards as a state by doing this. So like I said, don't push my customers out in the street. This is not about just saving my business, which is, of course, one of my goals, but it's also about what is best for Mississippi. And what is best for Mississippi is to create two separate industries, create you'll have two different sectors of job growth. You'll be able to collect double the sales tax, income tax, licensing revenue, and so on for the state, rather than giving it all to one industry and letting them become so big that you can't control it. Because as long as you have the hemp industry around, we compete against each other. It allows for neither one of us to get so big to where we start making up our own rules and laws and can get lobbyists.
It's a competitive marketplace.
Right. Yeah. But you don't want the lobbyists all to be on one side to where they're only pushing for what they want. This way you got lobbyists working against each other so that it kind of creates a balance, like a checks and balances. You're going to lose that. And that is, it sounds good now because you can't see it, but in 5 years, that's going to create a monster. One you can't control. So I'm going to end it with that. And the action I need from my listeners, if you live in Mississippi, contact your senator, reach out to them, email them. Don't send them a hateful email. Tell them they don't know what they're doing and just, that's not going to achieve anything. Explain to them why you use hemp products, the importance of it, and how we can work together. All I've asked our senators is I've laid out this plan for them. And all I've asked is I said, look, I just want a seat at the table. I want my voice to be heard. I want the hemp industry voice to be heard. I can help you with this because it sounds like on paper we want to achieve the same goals. So work with me on this so we can do that. Let's not achieve those goals by wiping out a whole complete industry. But I'll leave it at that. Hopefully in more podcasts, I will have information on how you can reach your senators, but you can Google them, Google Mississippi senators. It'll give you a whole list of their emails and stuff like that. Also, if you live out of state, this is coming to your state. So you need to be aware of it. And you need to be ready to know who your senators are and be able to contact them as well. Plus, it wouldn't hurt if you contact Mississippi senators too.
I hope you get a seat, man. That'd be awesome.
This is how I view it. We pass marijuana with 74%, so the majority of the state wants these things. Not everybody in the state, not everybody in that 74% pool can afford a medical marijuana card or afford those products. But I know if they all voted for marijuana, they want to keep the hemp too. They're not opposed to it, clearly. So I need you guys to support us. Otherwise, this section of our industry is going to be taken away. So please reach out and contact them and tell your friends to contact them as well. We have to make a difference, and we can be a leader in this. Now, I'll leave it at that. Guys, please remember, if you're watching on YouTube, like and subscribe. Don't forget the coupon code HVP for HempVille Podcast, HVP20, to get 20% off our online store on anything that you need. Also, remember, HempVille CBD. Hemp stands for Help Educate More People. Ville, we all live in the same community. We should all be looking out after each other. Thank you so much, and I'll talk to you next week. If you found this podcast helpful, I'd appreciate it if you took a minute to subscribe, rate, review, and follow us at HempVilleCBD.com. This increases the reach to more people who are trying to navigate through the changing cannabis market and its products so that we can create a more knowledgeable consumer. Take a screenshot and tag me in your social stories to friends. It means the world to me to know that this podcast has positively helped you and that we get to be a part of your journey. Thank you, and until next time, here's to a better life.